Should you hold gold or silver in your investment portfolio? Of course, I don't know you and your specific situation, so this cannot be taken as advice, but let me share with you a point of view that I share with my clients. The thing that I dislike most about commodities is that it's really based on supply and demand and/or the belief that it's going to be worth something in the future. There's really no true fundamental reasoning to derive why the price is currently trading at the price it's trading at. Comparing that to a company or a stock, you can understand what the revenues are, the expenses, the net earnings, and why it's currently trading at whatever level, whatever multiple it's trading at. And to oversimplify, Apple might be trading at 20 times its net earnings, meaning that I would have to wait 20 years to recoup my total investment. Where with gold, Bitcoin, any commodity, there is no internal cash flows. There's no dividends in addition. It is just purely based on the price. And you're just simply hoping that someone in the future will buy it from you at a higher price. And when you break down the returns of a stock, let's say the market has averaged 9% for the last 100 years, a third of that might just be due to inflation. So if they're selling toothpaste every year, toothpaste might get 3% more expensive. So the company selling that toothpaste is going to essentially increase the value of the company or the stock by 3% just simply because they're making more for selling a more expensive product. Now, on top of that 3%-ish inflation, they might have a 2% dividend. So you're already at 5% of growth just simply from the company continuing to do what it's currently doing. And if I'm hoping that they can innovate to the tune of 3 to 4%, hence where you get at that 8 or 9% annualized rate of return. Again, with a commodity, there are no dividends or cash flows to fall back on to derive at a price. And just to illustrate the importance of cash flow and dividends being reinvested, here's a quick chart that I just found off Google. I wish it went to 2024, but gold versus S&P 500 just purely on a price. You can see that it pretty much stays in line. You'd say this would be a great argument for why gold is very valuable. But over virtually that same time horizon, once you start reinvesting your dividends, it's just not even close. The S&P 500 is crushing gold and most commodities on that long of a time horizon from a returns standpoint. Now, I'm sure people will point to the lost decade, the period from 2000 to 2009, where the S&P 500 is sandwiched between the dot-com bubble and the great financial crisis, where the S&P returned almost no return. It was basically flat for a 10-year period. Meanwhile, gold went up or at least held its value. So during that decade, you looked like a genius for buying gold. And is it possible we're going to have another decade where the S&P 500 is flat? Possibly. So is there an argument that creating some diversification with gold might make sense? Yes, absolutely. But I'm probably going to lean more in the camp that it's a drag on the portfolio and there's really no need for it in a long-term diversified wealth building plan. Now, the last point I'll bring up is the doomsdayers. What if America goes under and our cash and dollars are worth nothing? Aren't you going to wish you had your gold at that time? So we're bartering and you can trade your gold for a stick of butter or a cow? Probably not. In this dystopian analogy or scenario, you're probably going to want food, guns, and water. Because what good is the gold bar going to do for the person receiving it? Maybe they could use it as a hammer. They're not going to use it for food. It kind of doesn't serve a real utility under that circumstance. So if you want to take a percentage of your portfolio and try to hedge against doomsday, I don't think gold is the play. I would probably lean more towards creating self-sufficient food resources, a water purifying system, and probably loading up on ammunition or some type of way to protect yourself and your family. Because everyone's going to want the one commodity you have, food and water. So with all that being said, I really don't view gold as a place in my long-term wealth building portfolio. I think you could view it maybe as a trade. You buy it and then 2 years later you sell it because of some type of bet that you want to make in the market. But that's a completely different conversation and outside of the scope of what I'm talking about long-term. So I'll be sticking to my globally diversified stock and bond portfolio. Happy building wealth.